Hey guys, here. Rich with Thrill the Treasure, doing a quick video for you guys. It's been a couple days since I was able to upload. Been busy with Halloween and everything else, but I'm really happy with the way the channels went so far. A lot of feedback, which is exactly why I started it. So, thought I'd put together a pretty cool little top five Forrest Fenn quote type thing that I felt like would be beneficial and kind of really involve a couple things. The first two comments that I'm going to put together are in regards to kind of, I don't want to say rabbit holes, just interesting stuff. You know, they're not necessarily anything you can take away from them, but I think they're definitely worth looking at and making a decision on whether you want to see if they would be helpful in your search in taking away area. And that's the first two. And then the last three I think are important. They are in regards to parts of the poem that we all seem to have a trouble with. So we will start with it. And the first one is, let's see, right here. Actually, it's right here. And guys, I'm sorry, I try to look for videos that would have him saying this stuff, but most of these aren't videos. You can find all this stuff and double check on terryscant.com. That's where I find everything at. It's an amazing, amazing tool. So this first one has to do with the old argument back in the day. For those new to the chase, when Forrest first came out, he said the chest is hidden somewhere north of Santa Fe in the mountains. Okay. And then a couple years later, I think, give or take, I don't know the exact date, then he added the Rocky Mountains, basically when he published Too Far to Walk, I believe. I think he was saying Rockies before he published Too Far to Walk, but that's when they came out with the map in the back that showed all the Rockies all the way up to Montana. So there's this big thought that what happened was when he initially did this, he wasn't expecting it to be so big. And when he said it's hidden north of Santa Fe in the mountains, that's what he meant. All right. Actually, north of Santa Fe, 8.5 miles in the mountains, not necessarily up in the Rocky Mountains, 3 or 4 states up. And then he changed it when he realized how big of a deal it was going to be and how much publicity it was getting. Okay. This, and I don't know about that. I mean, I see it both ways. I think it's interesting that he didn't say Rockies for months, and then all of a sudden he says Rockies. But also, I did find a quote within Terry Scant. Well, Dale Neitzel says that even back in 2011, he had mentioned to Dale that also could mean the Rockies. So maybe it's something that he just assumed people would think. Forrest, that is, would just assume people would think. I'm not sure. All right, but this is an interesting development on that. Okay, so for those people that think it's in Arizona and that's what he meant, you're going to like this. Okay, so I found this quote this is August 2011. Right here it is. It says, everyday people call begging for clues. The other day, I had 21 email requests. One man asked if he should buy a topographical map, and I told him he'd be better served reading the book again. All you have to do is think about the 9 clues and follow them in order. Okay, I'll tell you what I told a woman from Nevada who called and said she knew where the treasure was, but was incapacitated, so would I please go get it for her? I said, well, you tell me where it's at, and I'll bring it to you. The woman wanted an additional clue, so I told her it's more than 300 miles southwest of Toledo. Now, this is interesting, okay, because this was meant to be a joke. Because Toledo, he's referencing Toledo, Ohio. And you can figure that. I'll let you guys figure out why it's Toledo, Ohio. For one thing, it's obvious, but another thing, he mentions something that makes that obvious in other places. I'll let you research that. So it's Toledo, Ohio. Okay, so this is 2011, right? Early on in the chase. And he clearly says the woman's from Nevada, and it's 300 miles southwest of Toledo. Now, what this quote does is it really makes the argument that he made a mistake and changed it to the Rocky Mountains after the fact. It bolsters that argument because what he's saying in this quote is he's basically saying it's southwest of Toledo and basically saying it's north of Santa Fe in the mountains, southwest of Toledo. Okay, so I know you understand what I'm saying, but here's where it gets interesting. Okay, the next quote that I can find where he mentions this 300 miles in Toledo is on October 2nd, 2012. So about a little bit over a year later, I believe. Yeah, a year, like 14 months later. Okay, if you read this, it's about the same. He doesn't give a state on this one, I believe. But he says 300 miles west of Toledo. So the joke hint has changed. It went from 300 miles southwest of Toledo to 300 miles west of Toledo. Needless to say, that's a huge difference. Southwest from Toledo completely cuts out most of the search area that he added, and this quote keeps it all intact. So the question is that 2011 quote right here a misquote? Did Terry Scant get this wrong? Or did someone, I don't know where this is from. I can't find out where it's from. But I do know that I've had no one say that these are wrong. So why did Forrest change it from southwest in 2011 at Toledo, 300 miles as the joke hint, to 300 miles west of Toledo and about a year and 2 months later? Now, here's another interesting thing that I found is that he mentions Nevada. She's from Nevada in this first quote that we find about it. But here, and this is from a radio interview with Eads, and this would have been, sorry guys, I just want to tell you exactly when it was. Okay, so this is September 2015. Now here's another change, okay, to the quote a little bit, or to the scenario. What he says here is he says, let's see, where is that? Okay, it's interesting that you mentioned that because this lady from Minnesota called me on the phone and she said, Forrest, you have to help me a little bit. And I said, okay, I'll give you another clue. I said, the treasure is more than 300 miles west of Toledo. And she thought for a minute, oh, thank you, Forrest. She thought I was really helping her. She was satisfied. So this is 2015. It's still, it's 300 miles west of Toledo, but this lady is saying is from Minnesota and not Nevada. So it's like this joke hint has kind of changed. It went from person being from Nevada, 300 miles southwest of Toledo, then to 300 miles west of Toledo, and the person being from Minnesota. So I found it extremely interesting. In my opinion, I think this is a pretty big deal. Again, it could be a rabbit hole, but the date is what gets me. And I actually emailed Forrest to clear this up. I asked him simply, and he hasn't responded. I said, Forrest, did you say this? Because we all know that Forrest knows the difference between southwest of Toledo and west of Toledo. So guys, keep this in mind. This could be a big early not even a mistake. It's just that if he did say this, it's when he thought that the chase was going to be just north of New Mexico in the mountains. And this comment's still funny because it doesn't really isolate anything. If that's the search area, it doesn't isolate anything for the person. But then he changes it up to 300 miles west. Here's another one. This is unknown. Here's one from 2013. So he's mentioned it quite a bit after the fact that it's always 300 miles west. Okay, so that's the first one, guys. Love to hear your comments on that. Again, for you people that think that he switched up the search area after the fact, this little gem really bolsters your argument. Okay, here's the second thing that I found. Actually, let's see. Is that it? Is this it? Okay, this is another one that isn't specific to the poem. I just found it interesting. This is another from 2011, so really early. I like to look at the early stuff and then compare it to the old stuff. If it comes back, I'm going to grab a pocket full of sleeping pills, take a treasure chest filled with treasure and a copy of my bio. I'm going to walk out into the desert. And I found that interesting. He doesn't say walk out into the mountains. He says walk out into the desert. Now, I don't know if I've did some more searching on the quotes, and he definitely references the desert and more than just New Mexico. But again, I just want to put that out there. What does that mean exactly? Wouldn't it be better if he said walk out to the deserts and mountains, or the mountain desert? You know what I'm saying? This desert, again, it's a real big argument that kind of, if you put it together with the last quote about southwest of Toledo, about the people that think the search was only supposed to be started just to be meant for north of the mountains north of Santa Fe, this comment kind of falls right in line with proving that. Okay, so those are my two kind of interesting ones. Some people call them rabbit holes, but I think since they're coming from Forrest's mouth, they're a little bit not necessarily rabbit holes. Okay, so now the next three of the top five is about the poem and parts of the poem that we really are trying to figure out. Here's a really cool one. Which direction does the blaze face? North, south, east, or west? Curious, Foxy. He says, I didn't take a radical off the blaze, Foxy. I'm thinking it may not be any of those directions. F. Okay, so this is in my opinion, a really, really cool quote and a pretty big quote when it comes to the blaze, because we can come to some conclusions based on that answer, in my opinion. If it doesn't face any direction, he's basically saying that the blaze doesn't face a certain direction. So what does that mean? Okay, think about it. Well, for me, it means A, it could be on a tree, or it possibly could be on a tree. Again, these are my opinions. Because if he put the blaze, if he carved into a tree, that would definitely be facing a certain direction. That emblem or symbol, say it was Omega symbol in the tree, based on where the back of the book, or the double Omega. Well, that'd be facing the direction. So I don't think he'd say, I'm thinking it may not be any of those, because that tree would be facing a specific direction. Or let's say that it's on a rock face, like a mountain face, and it's some like a white streak of a rock. Again, Forrest is smart enough to know that what direction those mountain ranges are running. That mountain's running based. Heck, he made the poem based off of it for 15 years. So he would know that if that face of that mountain with that white blaze was facing south, he would say so, or I think he would say so. So the conclusion that I get from this is that the blaze doesn't face any direction. And therefore, this really, in my opinion, really leans towards the pile of rocks. Because a pile of rocks wouldn't face any direction. This would be a pile of rocks, so it'd face every direction. And it's not on the side of the mountain. It'd just be kind of like the pile. So if you guys can think of anything that would fit this definition, the blaze of not having a direction, not pointing to a direction. And then also take it one step further, and I won't go into that in this video, but combine it with some of the other things he said about the blaze, that it can't be destroyed. Or, this is not his quote, but something about how it couldn't be destroyed, which makes you think it's man-made, like it couldn't be blew up, something like that. Again, don't quote me. I know what idea I'm getting at, but I can't remember exactly what he said. In essence, the blaze would be hard to destroy. So if you add up everything he said about the blaze, this quote I really like a lot. And I won't go any more further than that. I'll let you guys just comment and tell me what you think about that. If you think it's a nice place to kind of start thinking about what the blaze really is, and it doesn't have a direction. Okay, so now the next of the top five. These aren't in any great order, but the last one I think is the most important. Okay, I already did that one. I like this one a lot, guys. Okay, this is the question. I had a chance to scoot down the Madison this evening. It's a beautiful river. I've never seen it before. Next, I'll have to be concerned about the blaze. But first things first, the Homa Brown is first. I walked some nice river tonight and saw some beautiful fly water. We'll check out more tomorrow. Now, this is Forrest's comment. Again, early in the chase, guys, 2012. I love the earlier comments. I feel like he was less guarded in these comments. He said, I'm afraid you will figure out the clues and find the chest. That's why I'm trying to guide you to where the grizzlies hide near Brown's house and wait for the treasure hunters. It was a hard winter for them, and they are really hungry. And so, funny quote. But I find it interesting that he brings up grizzlies. Okay, because like one big possibility for me, the House of Brown or the Homa Brown is actually the grizzly bears. So when I saw this at first, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, well, shoot, it can't be grizzly bears because he mentioned it right next to the Brown's house. But then again, I thought, you know what, that's just like Forrest to actually give you the actual answer inside of a quote. So let's think about this a little bit further. Let's not assume that it's the Brown's house, the home of Brown is actually for grizzlies, but he says, that's why I'm trying to guide you to where the grizzlies hide near Brown's house. Well, the grizzlies in our search area are only in two places. They're up north in Montana, next to the Canadian border, which would be the at Glacier National Park, and then Yellowstone. That's the only two places grizzlies are have a habitat in our search area. So why did he bring up grizzlies? You know what I'm saying? Like out of all the animals and all the ways this guy could get hurt or die, it's a silly joke to not find it. I find it very interesting that he brings up grizzlies, and then I find it very interesting that it's also a potential solve for the House of Brown. I'm going to do a whole video on the Homa Brown, and why I think it has to be an animal, just based on the way it's worded and what home means, and how he said there's no structures that have to do with the Homa Brown. So again, I'll just be straightforward. Grizzlies are still a very, very, very high potential for me for the Homa Brown, because when grizzlies, their home is above you, they like to actually habitate or sleep or go up to sleep or go up for the evening up on north-facing slopes up above. There's one slope in particular in Yellowstone you guys could do your research on. And then obviously in Glacial National Park up north in Montana, there's also an actual mountain where they live up above. So it's very interesting that it's one of the only examples of an animal where they can put in below the Homa Brown. And I'll say one more thing, and I probably shouldn't. I probably should save it for another video, but I think the very next line of the poem is your answer to the Homa Brown when he says from here it's no place for the meek. So for whatever reason, the Homa Brown, that area is no place for the meek. Again, really leans well into the solve being the grizzly bears up above on the north slope. So this interests me in two ways. One is because he could just be being Forrest and telling us right in our face what the solve is in some silly way. But also, if it's not, he's telling us that potentially, not, of course not, but it's just interesting he brings up grizzly out of the blue. This guy didn't mention grizzly bears. He didn't mention anything about grizzly bears. But he said something about grizzly bears being near Brown's house, and we know grizzlies are in two spots. So I think you guys will enjoy that one. That's something to chew on. And then finally, I think this could have been number one in the top five, but this one I really like too because it comes back to the number one clue, or the clue of the poem where he tells us to start, and it's warm waters. Okay, so the question is, this is on the 2017, so late in the search. What does warm mean to you? And he simply says, it means being comfortable. I, for some reason, that really got my attention because he doesn't say it means feeling comfortable. It's being. Does that make sense? The difference between feeling comfortable and being comfortable, the potential difference. Does he mean comfortable like at ease? That makes sense. Does he mean comfortable at ease, or does he mean comfortable like the water temperature is comfortable? I just think it'd be easier to say it means feeling comfortable. But he says that means being comfortable. So I'm wondering if this doesn't point us towards a solve of warm waters being calm waters where he's comfortable being. So calm waters stop, and then we got rapids. And again, that would make a lot of sense. Seeing how it's been really hard to solve this, and people are thinking warm temperature-wise, and we've looked everywhere. Maybe it's more of a feeling of warm. And for someone that took 15 years to make this poem, that's not a stretch. And I just find it really, really interesting that he said it means being comfortable instead of feeling comfortable. So I'll let you guys, again, take it to where you want to take it. I've given you a lot of my inner thoughts tonight about these, and I hope that you guys like it. Guys, I'll start to edit these whenever, if I need to. I know I kind of ramble, and I know it's kind of just, it's off the cuff, but I want to keep them that way. I'm not a professional. I know how to edit stuff, but I just want to keep them quick and as quick as possible. And more than anything, I just want to create some dialogue and get some new ideas out there. I think some of this stuff is really important. I think it's potentially, I should say, could be really important. And I want to get your guys' feedback. And that's about it. And then one other last thing. I want to thank you guys, because the one benefit to doing this YouTube channel is that I have 3 children. I think I mentioned it in my About Me video. And they're younger, and YouTube is their life. They're YouTube. They all watch YouTube. They have special people they love. They're YouTube stars. And my son watches gaming videos. My daughter watches cheerleading and dance videos. And my youngest son watches like Minecraft. And yesterday I was doing something on the YouTube channel, and my oldest son, who's 9, came over, and he's kind of noticed I had a channel. And man, was I the big hit of the house. It's the most attention I've gotten in this house from those kids in probably a year since they've gotten older. So I want to thank you for making me the big hit, making me cool for a minute until they realized what my channel was about. But I really thought it was really cool that I had a few subscribers and actually had some views. So definitely not going to let it go to my head, but I enjoyed that aspect of it. All right, guys, just comment. Really love to get your feedback. Subscribe if you like my ideas. I got a bunch more coming up. I rewrote the poem in synonyms. It's very interesting. I got that. I got more in the house, our home of Brown. I got all kinds of cool stuff that's somewhat new, or I feel like it's new to share with you guys. So I'll get that out to you next couple days. Okay, bye.